What's up everybody, Ello Guv'na Brown here, IFBB Pro, and I want to tell you a movement that I see most people butcher. No disrespect, this is a movement that a lot of us get wrong. I did it for years actually, believe it or not. Now, before you begin to work your posterior delt, which we're trying to work here, I actually like doing this at the beginning of my workout because it allows me to have full range of motion when I go into my pressing movement. So it's kind of like a pre-exhaust technique. But the first thing we want to do, if we want to get more bang for our buck on the rear delt machine, or the pec reverse fly as it's called, what we want to do is make sure that the chair and the setup is in the right position. This is crucial. I see so many people going into the gym and they don't even think about that. So the first thing you want to think about, like I said before in previous videos, is your setup. After setup, stability, and then initiate the movement. So here we go. We're going to show you the rear delt fly. Now, what I'm gonna do is take a seat and I'm gonna grab one handle to begin with. As you can see, the seat is actually too low for me. This is a bad position, so what I need to do is adjust the seat. I am a stickler for details. That looks pretty good. That feels good. Now, a lot of men, when I see them doing reverse flies, the problem is that when you're sometimes doing both arms together, you not only do you favor one side, but even for me, when I look at some of my old videos where I've had some discrepancies with my shoulder, is I favor one side, but I also naturally have one shoulder higher than the other. So what I'm trying to say here is what you can do is maybe do some unilateral work, meaning working one side at a time here, okay? Just so you can really focus on getting that mind muscle connection, but also make sure that you're stimulating that posterior delt, because this is a muscle that you can't actually see. So you have to feel it. So the feeling that you need to generate has to be very intense and very strong. And sometimes what I say to a lot of men and women is maybe drop the weight a little bit and go a little bit lighter so you can really activate that posterior delt. Because if you look at it, the muscle's a very, very small muscle. So before I grab the bar or the handle, I wanna make sure that everything works in straight lines. So if I'm too high, that's not a straight line. If I'm too low, that's not a straight line. So I want straight line, wrist, shoulder, okay? The tendency with so many people when they're doing rear delts on the machine as an example, the biggest problem I see so many people doing is they'll raise their shoulder, then pull back. That's a bad position to be in. What you wanna do is think about the setup and stability. So we wanna get stability of the scapula, bring that shoulder down into neutral, relax the trap, then initiate the movement, and then we're gonna activate that rear delt, okay? So that's the biggest common mistake I see is shoulder raising too high and the traps rising too high. The second thing I see many people doing is going back way too far, like this. What this does, by coming back too far, what it enables you to do is it brings in too many muscle groups into play. For example, you start bringing your traps into the exercise, you may bring your triceps into the exercise, you also bring in your traps into the exercise. So remember, the body works better in straight lines, and if you look at the posterior delt, it's a very small muscle, so it only needs a small angle. That's it, that is all you need. So what I sometimes do, I sometimes don't even like to hold on to the handle. I just want to feel that posterior delt is doing all the work. Not this, and not this. So remember, set up here, boom, right there. Pause, little isometric hold, just to create more tension or more time under tension on that posterior delt. Hold. Now I can already feel it. Now, another big pet peeve I see all the time is using too much weight and the weight slamming back and forward. And again, momentum is, again, in play here. We don't want any momentum here. So I want constant tension. I actually don't want the weights to touch. What I want to try and do is keep the tension on the muscle and don't let it break whatsoever. It's constant. Now on my last working set, on my Guv'na set, if I hit failure, then I might do an isometric hold, and I might do some partials from the bottom to failure, or I might do some rest pauses. I might take 10 seconds rest, crank out a few more, take another 10-second rest, do a few more. I also love drop sets on my last particular working set as well when I'm doing rear delts. And remember, you don't need a lot of volume with rear delts. It's a very, very small muscle. 1 or 2 movements for rear delts, that's all you need. But I prefer you to do them at the beginning of your workout, which is going to set you up for a lot more success when you're doing your military presses as an example, okay? So let's do a working set. So, your grip is important. When you're working posterior delt, whether that would be with dumbbells or using a machine or cables, don't grip too hard. Relax your grip a little bit, because sometimes I find subconsciously, if you grip very hard, then what happens is you allow other muscle groups, for me, my opinion, you allow other muscle groups to come into play. So as I mentioned earlier, the posterior delt is a very, very small muscle. It doesn't need a lot of weight. So get the ego out of the way and challenge the muscle, because it's a very small muscle. What's the point of loading this up, using a ton of weight and bringing other muscle groups into play? Doesn't make any sense. So think about form, execution. And another thing I wanted to add, before you start thinking about volume and adding extra weight, think of how the repetitions are, or the pillars of repetition, or what it is. Concentric, isometric, eccentric, pause without allowing the weight to touch. Isometric, eccentric, rest, pause. Concentric, isometric, eccentric, pause, which means the rest. That is all she wrote. Thank you so much for watching. If you've got any value from this video, you know what to do. Hit the like button, leave me a comment below, but most importantly, please, please, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, and I'll see you, Guv'na, on the next video. Cheerio.